Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Are you reading from any particular verse?
You read last verse in the 4th chapter, regular going, but you can put in verse even.
There's a marker. 4? Oh yes, next. 42. It's this? Verse 42 of chapter 4. This chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. And text 42 reads, Tasmat agyana sambhutam hritstam gyana sinatmanah chitvanam shamsayam yogam atitoshtishta bharata. Please repeat. Tasmat. Activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of the self, which is pure spiritual activity. If sacrifice of one's material possessions is not dovetailed for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. But one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that these are also divided into two, namely, understanding one's own self or one's constitutional position, and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial, for such a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. In the beginning of this chapter, the transcendental activities of the Lord were discussed by the Supreme Lord himself. One who does not understand the instructions of the Gita is faithless and is to be considered to be misusing the fragmental independence awarded him by the Lord. In spite of such instructions, one who does not understand the real nature of the Lord as the eternal, blissful, all-knowing personality of God is certainly fool number one. Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is awakened by different types of sacrifices to the demigods, sacrifice to Brahman, sacrifice in celibacy, in household life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varna Ashram. All of these are known as sacrifice, and all of them are based on regulated action. But within all these sacrifices, the important factor is self-realization. Bhagavad Gita. One who doubts the authority of Krishna falls back. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture under a spiritual master in the disciplic succession from time eternal. And he does not deviate at all from the instructions of the Supreme Lord as they were imparted millions of years ago to the Sun God, from whom the instructions of Bhagavad Gita have come down to the earthly kingdom. One should therefore follow the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is expressed in the Gita itself, and be aware of self-interested people after personal aggrandizement who deviate others from the actual path. The Lord is definitely the Supreme Person, and his activities are transcendental. One who understands this is a liberated person from the very beginning of his study of Bhagavad Gita. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 4th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of transcendental knowledge. Once more, this verse reads, Tasmat agyana sambhutam krishtam jnana sinatmanah
Chitvainam Sungshayam Yogam Tishtotishta Bharata. Please repeat the translation after me. Therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada begins it by stating that the yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatana Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. He goes on to identify these activities as sacrificial actions. And then he divides them into sacrifice of material possessions, which is technically called Dravya Yajna. And then sacrifice for spiritual realization, which is technically called Yajna-objective. And Srila Prabhupada writes here that one has to understand out of this sacrifice one's own self, one's constitutional position. Elsewhere in the same purport he states that means we are part and parcel of Krishna. And apart from understanding one's own self, or in addition to, we should say, then one should understand the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of Bhagavad Gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. Srila Prabhupada writes, Krishna consciousness, I'm jumping ahead, is awakened by different types of sacrifices to the demigods, sacrifices to Brahman, sacrifices in celibacy, in householder life, in controlling the senses, in practicing mystic yoga, in penance, in foregoing material possessions, in studying the Vedas, and in partaking of the social institution called Varna Ashram Dharma. And Srila Prabhupada concludes the necessity of conducting this process described here, the sacrifice which ends in knowledge of the self and knowledge of Krishna, and of course the interrelation between the two. One must go about this under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, for there to be the actual result that is described here. So, in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, here we see, in this verse we've read, the Lord is saying, Atishtotishta Bharata. That you stand and fight. Yogam atitoshtishta bharata. Armed with yoga, stand and fight. In chapter 11, text 33, the Lord says, Tasmatvam utishta yasho labdhasya. Therefore, Prabhupada is translating, therefore get up. Prepare to fight and win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Savyasrati, can be but an instrument in the fight. So, bringing these two verses together, these two chapters together, we see that not only is sacrifice a program presented in the scriptures, but it is actually the objective program of this material world. You see, it's not simply that we have this book, Bhagavad Gita, and some other texts from the Vedic collection, and they are urging us to take up sacrifice. But there are also many other options. Even within the Vedas, one could perhaps find other paths given. And one could go to other religions or other philosophies or anything and find other paths, and they might also have their own validity. But no, in the 11th chapter, where Krishna shows his universal form, he's actually showing that sacrifice is the objective plan of the universe. That this battle of Kurukshetra is a great sacrifice of arms. And sacrifice can manifest in so many different ways. Actually, Sanskrit, of course, yajna. So this is a name of Vishnu. Vishnu, who is the Lord of this material world, presiding over this material world for one purpose, to accept our sacrifice. Therefore, he has expanded himself as Purusha avatar. Purusha, this is significant. The word can be understood in several ways. So let me speak of two ways. Purusha. Pur means just like Lord Krishna describes this body we have as what? A city of 9 gates. Puram means city. So there are 9 gates. So Usha means the one who lives within. Purusha, the one who resides within that city. So of course that word Purusha with a small p can be applied to the Jiva Atma. We are also called Purusha. I've quoted this morning. Purusha Prakritisto hi. The Purusha is Prakritisto hi, situated within material nature. We're situated in this body. But the Supreme Lord himself is the original Purusha. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. And so in this sense of the word, he has expanded himself into this universe. First of all, you know that from Mahavishnu are coming countless universes. Each one is a little Puram. And then he, as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, expands into each one to maintain from within every universe coming from his body as Mahavishnu. And then furthermore, he's expanding within the individual bodies of all living entities and lives in their heart. So in this sense, he is Purusha. Dwelling within this universe, dwelling even within our own body as the Antaryami, the inner controller. Now why does he do this? This is for the Lord, who, as we can see there in that nice painting, Krishna has unlimited, fully transcendental activities to occupy himself in the spiritual world. They're ever expanding. They're already unlimited, and yet expanding and getting sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. So he has full-time engagement there. So why does he bother? I'm using this word perhaps in a little special sense. Why does he bother? He's God, so he can do what he wants. But why does he bother to manifest this material world, which is certainly nowhere near as much fun as the spiritual world is for him? And why does he even enter into this material world as Purusha? And even enter into these bodies that we have? So then we can think of another meaning of the word Purusha, which means, of course, and this one we generally think of when we hear this word, enjoyer. He has come here also to enjoy, but to enjoy what? To enjoy simply the passage of time, creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the universe, to enjoy watching us make fools of ourselves in this material world, doing all kinds of nonsense. And that would seem to make God a rather unpleasant type of person, wouldn't it? I mean, if you're walking down the street and you stumble, or the famous example, someone has thrown a banana peel on the sidewalk and you slip on it. That's a famous instance one sees in cartoons, comics, movies, comedy movies. So one slips on a banana peel and falls on the ground, falls on the sidewalk. And someone else who is watching, he laughs. Ha 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 ha. He's taking pleasure of your having fallen. What kind of person is that? You see, we don't appreciate that kind of person. He's not considered humane. He's not considered to be empathetic. He's nasty person. How can he find pleasure in other people's pain? So is that Krishna's enjoyment? Is that why he comes to maintain this universe and enter our hearts so he can see from without and from within how we make fools of ourselves, how we're undergoing birth, death, disease, and old age? Is that his role as Purusha, to enjoy us caught in the web of his Maya? No, not at all. Yes, he has come as Purusha, but that means the enjoyer of sacrifice. And that is his intention. That is the plan behind the manifestation of this material world. As a matter of fact, as we find in the Srimad Bhagavatam and as it is declared in the Vedas, that this material world came into being out of sacrifice. Who is the first born son of Lord Vishnu as Purusha? That is, of course, Lord Brahma. We were speaking of him this morning. He is called Svayambhu, self-born, because he's not born from mother. He's born directly from the body of the Lord, from the Padmanabha, lotus navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakarshay Vishnu, Purushottama, Supreme Purusha. And Brahma appears and he's in ignorance initially. He doesn't know from where he has come. He doesn't know why he is there. He doesn't know what is the meaning of this darkness around him. The dark, hardly formed material universe. But he hears a sound. A word repeated twice. And this word is said by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to be spoken by the spiritual Saraswati, the goddess of transcendental knowledge, who is the Lord's own consort. Lord Brahma has his consort, the Saraswati of this material world. But just like Indra, who is the king of heaven, he has Shachi as his consort. She is what? She's an expansion of Lakshmi. So that Indra, you see, he'll have all facility, all opulence, all material happiness, whereby he can enthusiastically engage in his function. So similarly, Lord Brahma, his consort is Saraswati, who is an expansion of the Lord's own Jnana Shakti. So there is a spiritual transcendental Saraswati. And from her comes this sound vibration, tapa tapa. which means austerity, which, in other words, this is another way of making sacrifice. This word sacrifice we apply in so many ways. It's not just the formal Agnihotra Yagya, Homa, offering ghee and grains into the fire and chanting Svaha. That is one form of sacrifice. We're speaking of the battle of Kurukshetra. That is another form of sacrifice performed by Kshatriyas. Sacrifice of arms. And when we practice austerity, tapasya, restrain our senses for the purpose of transcendental realization, spiritual advancement, that is also another kind of sacrifice. So from Brahma's sacrifice, following this tapa, and how long did he perform tapasya? For one entire day of his time, which is 4,800,000,000 years. Long time. And so out of this sacrifice of Brahma, then he was rewarded by the Lord with the Vedic knowledge, which manifested in his heart in the form of Brahma Tejas. Brahma Tejas means the fiery spiritual energy, which is the fomenter. This is an interesting word. Fomenter of the Rajoguna. Because Brahma is Rajoguna avatar. But the original energy of the Rajoguna is spiritual. And it manifests within his heart in the form of this Vedic knowledge. And then he is empowered by that knowledge to do the work of creation. So, in this way, the whole creation arose from sacrifice. Furthermore, it is explained in Bhagavatam that in performing the sacrifice of creation, Brahma himself declares, he explains, I had no ingredients, because you need ingredients to make a sacrifice. I had no ingredients other than the very limbs of the Lord himself. Vedic stuti, the Purusha Shukti hymn, in the Rig Veda, Sahasra Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapat Shabhumin Vishato Ritva, Adyaptistad Dasangulam, Purusha Evidagam Sarvam. It goes on like this, explaining how the Purusha himself became the sacrificial animal. And how he was divided. This is Prabhupada mentions the Varnashram system. And we know Brahmanas are springing from the head of the Lord, Kshatriyas from the arms. So actually he said the Purusha was divided in that way and became Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras. And he became all living entities and all features. He became the moon and the sun and Indra. Of course, we have to point out that this is described as a mental sacrifice. It was not that Garbhadaksha Vishnu was literally carved up, but this was a meditation by Brahma upon the form of the Lord. And that meditation took the form of sacrifice. And from out of Brahma's meditation in that way upon the Lord, then he created. So everything springs from sacrifice. That is the origin of everything. And it is by sacrifice, you know this very well, it is by sacrifice that everything is maintained. Prabhupada explains that the only reason in this Kali Yuga there is rainfall is because of the Yuga Dharma, the Sankirtan Yajna. For the last 5,000 years, people have been performing here and there Sankirtan, glorifying the holy names of the Lord. Nam Namakari Bahudadni Jasharva Shaktish. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the Lord has thousands and millions of names, and they're all full of potencies. So even in the religions outside of India, we find the great religions, religions which we can accept as having some value. They also are stressing the glorification of the holy name of the Lord. Perhaps for material purposes, but anyway. So this is the understanding that because people have been glorifying the name of the Lord, therefore there's rainfall. Therefore this world is being maintained by that sacrifice. And in every yuga there is an appropriate sacrifice. And finally again, at the end, the Mahapralaya, the whole universe will be consumed by the Purusha. Just like in the form of Vaishnava Agni, when we see the sacrifice performed, then that Agni form of the Lord is eating everything put inside. So exactly that way in Mahapralaya, flames will issue from the mouth of Anantashesh Shankarshan, who lives at the bottom of the universe, who is the snake couch of Vishnu. And from between his eyes, Mahadev, Lord Shiva, will appear, and he will dance within those flames and carry with him those flames. To every planet, he will dance, tread on every planet, and every planet he touches, he will ignite with the flames coming from the mouth of Anantashesh. So therefore, Vedanta also says one name of the Lord is the eater, because he eats everything in the end. The whole universe becomes consumed as if in a sacrificial fire. So at every stage, beginning, middle, and end, the only thing that is really happening here is yajna, sacrifice. And the same thing for us individually. Here in the 11th chapter, text 15, Arjuna said, "My dear Lord, I see assembled in your body, your universal form, all the demigods and various other living entities. I see Brahma sitting on the lotus flower, as well as Lord Shiva, and all the sages and divine serpents." Yes, so all the demigods are there within the great universal form of the Lord. And what are they doing? They're performing sacrifice. They're worshipping the Lord. And we have this body. You see, there is this principle, vyasti samasti. Samasti means totality, the total picture. And vyasti means the individual within the total. Just like Prabhupada uses this term, very apt term, part and parcel. This term in the English language, part and parcel, is actually, it's giving simultaneously these two ideas. That there's an individual part, but he is parcel of a greater whole. So part and parcel. Vyasti samasti. So there is the total universal body of the Lord. That is samasti. And there is this body. This is vyasti. And there is correlation between the two. Just like it is said, Surya, the sun, is the eye of the Lord. And Chandra is the moon. So two eyes, one seeing it in day and one seeing at night. So by the power of the sun and the moon, we also have power of sight. If it was not for the light of sun and moon, then this body could not see. And this is explained in philosophical way in the Srimad Bhagavatam about the Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Adidaivika Purushas. This is a triad, like a triangular combination. There's a living entity who is giving his consciousness, and then the Adideva principle is the demigod like Surya, and Adibhautika is the bodily principle, this eye. And there's a triangulation between these three. Thus we have sight. You remove any one corner of the triangle, sight is gone, cannot see. If Surya doesn't shine, cannot see. If the eye is not there, cannot see. If the soul is not there, you certainly cannot see. So this is an interrelation between this body and also and the samasti, the great universal form of the Lord. And also within this body the demigods are residing, just as Arjuna sees within the universal form. The demigods are there. So expansions of the demigods are in this body. And therefore this body is able to work. They are the managers, the empowered managers of the functions of this body and also this mind. This is an insight I was mentioning this morning about the Bhagavata psychology. So this is very, very important to that. Because in the Western world, see, we have this sense of our individuality, individual identity. People are thinking, you see, by themselves, I'm alone. And from this sense of aloneness, of course, then this is a ripe field for psychological problems. Alienation. Someone feels, I can't relate to other people. So he feels himself withdrawn, all by himself, lonely, isolated. But in fact, we are never alone. There is, of course, Paramatma with us. And Prabhupada said within the heart also is Prakriti. In one lecture he explained not only Paramatma, but Paramatma's energy. Prakriti is there too in the heart. These different demigods occupying the functions of the different senses. They're here in this body too. And so the question is not, I'm so lonely, why, how can I relate to anyone? The real question is, yes, even in that body, you have so many duties, so many responsibilities to others who are there. Actually, it comes down just like Arjuna is saying, I see all living entities in the body of the Lord. So this body too, Prabhupada confirmed. I remember in the Bhagavad Dharma discourses, New Vrindavan, September 1972, in answering a question, Srila Prabhupada confirmed that every cell in this body is animated by a jiva. You know that scientists have actually taken human skin, a patch of human skin, cut it away from the body and put it in a dish and given it nutrients and grown the skin very big. They can, they grow big patches of skin in case someone, gets burned or something. And then they can just put a patch of living skin right on the body and cover the open wound. Separately from the body. It means it's a living thing. Our hair is growing, after we die. Sometimes they have, for some reason, medical examination or something after death. They have opened up a coffin where they put a body and they find he has a beard. Because the hair kept growing. So the main jiva, predominating jiva has gone, but these little jivas are still there. And they haven't gotten the message yet that this body is dead. So this body we have is Prabhupada said, we are samples of God. So this body is a sample of the universal form. And the universal form means yajna. The universal form is addressed in the Vedas as Mahapurush, the great enjoyer of sacrifice. This universal form is the deity, the personal deity of Lord Brahma. This is because the universe has come out of his meditation upon Garbhodakashay Vishnu's. Garbhodakashay Vishnu actually manifests the Virat, Virat Rupa, which is explained technically in the Bhagavatam, that is the lotus petal upon which Brahma sits. And this is a subtle form already, like you can say a blueprint, an architectural design of the universe. And Brahma can see this lotus. He's sitting on it, obviously. For him, it's, it's substance. Because he's sitting. We can't see it. It's too subtle for us. We look in our telescope. We don't see any big lotus up there in outer space. So the scientists think this is all mythology. So this Virat Rupa, it is actually a form of this super soul. Chirodakashayi Vishnu, coming out of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. So Lord Brahma, he contemplates this Virat, and from that contemplation, then he can do his work of making the gross creation, which is, based upon that subtle design. So this body too has its design, which is based upon that design. So there's a total interrelationship. And that universal body, it is, yes, as I said, this is being worshipped by Brahma, the original Brahmana. He is performing sacrifice. All of this Vedic knowledge he is utilizing to worship the Mahapurush. In this way, everything has come about. And this physical human body we have in the Upanishads, Chandogya Upanishad, there is the declaration that this body is also meant, human life is also meant only for yajna, for sacrifice. So you see, this is where we get back to the point of psychology, meaning a healthy mental life. It means this. It means one has to have one's mind and of course senses, everything, life airs, this body, everything engaged, constantly day in, day out in, Prabhupada uses the term regulated activities. Regulated activities. There's in the 3rd chapter, what is the text? 15, I believe. Karma brahmavaram vidhi. Yes, text 15. Karma brahmod bhavam vidhi. Brahmakshara samudbhavam. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam jagya pratishthitam. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So that all-pervading Lord, that all-pervading Mahapurusha, Purushottam, he is accessible to us. Yes, even in this human form, even in this embodied state. If we use this body according to the plan of the Lord for the whole universe, which is yajna. In his Bhagavatam commentary, Bhagavatam purport to the Chaturshloki, Srila Prabhupada says, this is the way to realize genuine, real oneness. Because the impersonalists talk about oneness. But their sense of oneness is just the absence of form and activity, just, as if it would take a meditative eraser, you see. You turn meditation into a type of eraser and you erase everything. You see? There's nothing left. And then you say, I'm realizing the oneness. But you're realizing, no, you're not realizing. One means something. You're realizing zero. You're not realizing one, you're realizing zero. So oneness means a whole entity. So this universe is a whole entity. So in the specific connection that I'm referring to, Prabhupada is describing the Varna Ashram Dharma, which was mentioned in this purport we read this evening, as one type of sacrifice. So if one takes up one's position, Varna Ashram Dharma, then one becomes a functioning part and parcel of the universal form of the Lord. You see? And then you realize oneness. Oneness in the Lord's plan of sacrifice. And so how does bhakti fit into this? It fits perfectly into this, because bhakti is the emotion that we are meant to contribute to this formal process of yajna, which is already the fact. It is already that all that is really going on, just as we heard Krishna tell Arjuna, look, it's going to happen anyway. This battle is going to be fought, and these people are all going to be killed. This is my plan. It's inescapable. But you can be an instrument. O Savyasachi. This is what he says. So this is the contribution of the living entity. We can become instruments, and that means we should surrender to Krishna's plan, and not just surrender in the sense of, like someone has put a gun to our head, now you do this, all right. Not that type of, but loving surrender. And this is the positive contribution of bhakti. And this is what Krishna says. You see, this is the sense of the whole Gita. The Chatushloki of the Gita in the 10th chapter begins, verse 8. Well, how does it begin? These 4 essential verses in which the whole meaning of the Gita is expressed. So the first one, Krishna is declaring Aham Savasya Prabhavo Matak Sarvam Pravartate. He's declaring that I am the source of everything. This is what I've been explaining to you. How Krishna is the source of everything. He is yajna, he is sacrifice personified. And out of his own sacrifice, and the sacrifice of his son Brahma, everything has come out. Everything is flowing from the Lord. So this he proclaims. I am the source of everything. Hamsavasya Prabhu Mattaksar Itimatva Bhajantimam. And one who knows this, Itimatva, one who actually understands this, Bhajantimam, then he engages in my devotional service. Buddha Bhava Samanvita, using his intelligence, you see? And Bhava, in ecstasy. It's 2 things I mentioned here. Buddha, that he's intelligent to be able to see this. How everything is coming from Krishna, therefore the plan of the Lord is inescapable. This is the only thing happening. And anything else is Maya. You see? If we think, no, the world is here for sense gratification. Well, Krishna discusses that philosophy also in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And he says, this is the philosophy of the demons. Asatyam apratishtam te jagat ahura nishwaram asparaspara sambhutam. So they think everything exists for calm, for lust, just for their sense gratification. Asatyam, otherwise there's no purpose. There's no reality, no foundation. Just everything is there for our lust. And this is the asurika bhava, the mood of the demons. Asura sampat. This is their, sampat means qualification, but in the case of the demons, it's their disqualification. They do not know what is the purpose of things. One of the Brahmanas, this is Vedic literature describing sacrifice. So in one of the important Brahmanas of the Vedas, it gives a depiction of how Lord Brahma was giving instruction to the demigods and the demons, because in the beginning, demigods and demons, there was no clear distinction between them. They were just great personalities who were created at the dawn of this universe. And so then how they became divided into a class of Devata and Asura, this is described in this Brahmana, that Lord Brahma was personally showing them how to do sacrifice. And so he was giving out the offerings. He gave, just like, in class for children, you give out the paper and the pen or the color crayons or whatever. Everyone gets one on their desk, and then the teacher gives further instructions what to do, you see. So he gave out the offerings to everyone assembled there. And but before he could go on to the next instruction, he noticed that already some of them had put the offerings in their own mouths. Some of them all... And others were there just holding the offering. What shall we do next? And this is how the difference became manifested. Demigods and demons. The demons have no sense of the purpose of things. Just there for their enjoyment, that's all. Let me enjoy it. Put it in my mouth right away. Looks good, let me eat it. No idea that if it is good, then it is meant for the Lord. If it is good, it is meant for God. Devatas, they think this way. Demigods, that's their qualification. So in 16th chapter, Krishna is speaking of Daivi Sampat and Asura Sampat, the qualification of the demigods and the disqualification of the Asuras. So the Asuras, they live in this illusion. It's total illusion, not knowing the real intention behind everything. So they have no position. They're lost. So we should not be like that. So our contribution, since this is the fact, this is the actual fact, this is the actual reality of life in this material world, sacrifice. So our contribution, Buddha, to understand it, then bhava samanvita. Then in bhava, in ecstasy. Or as Prabhupada translates, with great care and attention. He also uses that translation. And then we should engage in this sacrifice. And so now in this age, the sacrifice is, of course, Nama Sankirtan. So we should engage in that enthusiastically. With knowledge, knowing the meaning, the purpose of Sankirtan, and with loving devotion. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshakam Eka Purusha Purana. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, to give these gifts to the living entities, the human beings of this world, even in the dark age of Kali Yuga. Vairagya, renunciation, in other words, don't put it in your own mouth. Vidya, transcendental knowledge, and Nija Bhakti Yoga. Nija means specific, not just to any demigod, you see, any vague conception of God, but specifically to Krishna, Nija Bhakti Yoga. So Mahaprabhu is giving these priceless gifts, ancient, which have not been seen for a long time. He's bestowing this upon us so that we may perform this yajna properly and attain the full result, which is also given by Mahaprabhu, Krishna Prema. So we take these gifts, vairagya, renunciation, that means, yes, you are here as a servant, not as an enjoyer. This is called yukta vairagya. You know this. Rupa Goswami has given this explanation of vairagya in a very nice way. It doesn't mean dry, shukshma vairagya. It means dry renunciation. Palgu vairagya, weak renunciation, in other words. Because one is, actually it means one is foolish. One doesn't, again, know the purpose of things. So one just shies away. No. Like Prabhupada used to say, that one so-called spiritual leader, still famous in India, who used to be very proud that my hand, whenever money comes near, automatically withdraws. And you can't put money in my hand, you see. As soon as money comes near my hand, by itself goes away. Prabhupada said, my hand, on the other hand, takes the money, spends it for Krishna, and comes back for more. This is actually Yukta Vairagya. This is knowing the real purpose of things. Everything is meant for Krishna, not meant for us. This shying away and don't want to get involved and be aloof and transcendental, so to speak, from everything. This is again, one is still keeping oneself as the center. Huh? So, real renunciation means to engage everything in Krishna's service. Vidya, this is the knowledge, how to do that. And Nija Bhakti Yoga, do it for Krishna. All right, so I thank you very much for your kind attention to this class. And tomorrow you'll be beginning chapter 5. I'll put the marker in the right place. For the next person, whoever gives the class tomorrow, I won't be here for the evening class. So, would there be one or two questions at this time? Yes?
Maybe I would like to ask about the cows. That I read one time that Vishnu is very pleased if you release a cow. What is our policy in this matter? If we see all these cows and we know their spirit souls, if it was a human being,
I don't quite understand your question.
But, we see these animals captured inside the caves. So I think sometimes if it's a human being, we will surely take the risk of releasing. So what about
setting free?
Setting free, oh. And you ask, well, see, we have our founder Acharya. He's not only told us what to do, he's shown us by his own example what to do. And as nice as this program may sound, Srila Prabhupada has not authorized us. There are these animal rights activists who go out and set animals free in the night, and they blow up laboratories and they do all kinds of things, and they have also become very controversial. So they're doing these things. But they're not devotees either. So this is actually just another form of material activity. So if your question is simply, should we do a thing or not, we have our founder Acharya, we have his teachings, we have his books. So you follow Srila Prabhupada's example. Srila Prabhupada has never authorized such kind of activity. We should show by example. ISKCON is not meant to be some type of radical political guerrilla warfare outfit or something. We have our own cows, we have our own farms. We show the people by example. This is the proper way to live. And really, it's like the end of Bhagavad Gita. What does Krishna say? What does he say to Arjuna? Take it or leave it. That's what he says. I have told you everything, so you may do it or not do it. And then they have to accept the result. So one who's intelligent, he will follow the teaching. One who's not intelligent will... And that, you see, that option is there in the material world. Maya is there, ready to seize those who do not want to surrender. And ultimately, our mission is to go back home, back to Godhead. Not to take birth here again and again and again, trying to be reformers, social reformers, and set everything right, and justice and peace and all of these things. And you see, that's also a program for remaining forever in the material world. If you think you're the like these cartoon characters, dressed up with their capes, Superman, Justice League of America. It's faster than a speeding bullet. We're here to serve Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada has shown us how to serve Krishna. Anything else? Yes.
It is said that the knowledge can be, not only can be, but is one of the impediments actually in the progress in spiritual life, besides beauty, bodily beauty, opulence, and these different things. So, but then again, there is many verses where Krishna stresses that knowledge is the very means of attaining perfection. And as if I got it well, you were describing
Hare Krishna.
This morning's class that the actual distinction is that one takes what makes the difference is that one takes the subordinate position of in regard to acharya, existing acharya.
Well, yes, but also there's a distinction between spiritual knowledge and material knowledge. The verse you're referring to, spoken by Queen Kunti, Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribir. So she uses the word Shruta, which just means general subject matter for hearing. So there are also, there's in schools and colleges, the students are sitting there hearing something. The question is whether it is Laukika Shabda or Shabda Brahma. Laukika Shabda means ordinary material sound, just describing this material world. Just giving information how we can enjoy this material world in ignorance. Actually, this is not knowledge then. You see. Of course, scientists are busy discovering newer and newer ways to exploit material nature, but so this has the appearance of knowledge, but that's the example of the jewel on the snake's forehead. You see. It looks very beautiful, and so you reach to take the jewel and you get bitten by the snake and you die. So this type of material knowledge which is saying, yes, enjoy, and here's how you do it. You can have sex and not have to worry about baby, just take this pill. We have made this pill for you, now have sex. You see? Or whatever, so many things are there. They try to make sense gratification very free and easy. This is what scientific progress is all about. And this is all going under the name of newer and newer knowledge. You see. But it is just turning man into, as Prabhupada writes, royal edition of the animals. He's actually becoming worse than the animals, because the animals at least are restricted in their sense gratification by, there's clear boundaries of nature. Like there are certain animals, nature, they become lusty for sex at a certain season. So some animals, it's only once a year. You see? Of course, pigeon, 30 times a day, Prabhupada said. But some animals, they're restricted by nature. So everything for animals is defined by nature. But human being has independence. Because human being is supposed to develop higher knowledge. Therefore, he's given independence. But instead, if we use that independence, that minute independence, just to try to cheat by finding, loopholes and, around the corner and all this kind of thing, exploiting material nature, then we just become, as Prabhupada says, more and more implicated in the actions and reactions of Maya.
But how is it that these people who study same knowledge, as you were speaking this morning, the man has translated Chaitanya Charitamrita, but it's the same knowledge, it's spiritual knowledge. But
no, and it's actually not the same knowledge. So like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, that the syllables of the holy name, I've forgotten the Bengali right now, but he gives the statement that one may utter the syllables of the holy name, but that does not mean that Krishna is present within those syllables he is uttering. Just like there may be the deity form of the Lord in so many museums. in the West, especially in London, because England was once the colonial power over Great Britain, India. Great Britain was the colonial power over India. So they have in their British Museum so many deities of Krishna and Vishnu and other deities. But they're not being worshipped. So Krishna's not there. These are just statues on display. So Krishna, what is that? Takshri Krishna namadi na bhavyad graim indriya sevan mukhi jivvadav svayameva spuratyada. Krishna reserves the right to be apart from our sense perceptions, from our thoughts. He's independent. It's not that you, because we understand he is incarnated as the holy name, that you could capture him. That any rascal, sahajya, he can have Krishna work for him by chanting his holy name. He has some own rascal program to become famous bogus acharya, teaching people, yes, chant Hare Krishna, realize love of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya. There's one in South India who says, Lord Chaitanya, he is gold, just like coffee is black and cream is white. You mix them together, it becomes gold. So Lord Chaitanya is gold like that. Krishna is black, Radharani is white. They mix it. Giving these absurd examples involving coffee and things like that. Everything focused on sense gratification. So he may be using the names Krishna and Srimati Radharani and Gauranga Mahaprabhu, but they are not present in his vacha, in his words. And just like the form, Krishna is not captured by this Archamurti. Prabhupada said the Muslims thought in the riots that they used to have in India, well, still have, Hindu-Muslim riots. So the Muslims, massive Muslim who would rush into a Hindu temple and break the deity and say, now we have killed the Hindu god. You see? But it's not like that. You think you harm Krishna by breaking the deity? Not at all. So this subject matter also, Krishna is there for the devotee. He is present. This is the difference between Shabda Brahma and Laukika Shabda, ordinary sound vibration. That Krishna is present. And he enters according to the attitude. Prabhupada explains when there is a proper relationship between guru and disciple. He gives the example of when the husband is virile and his wife is fertile, and they come together, and then they will conceive a child. When all conditions are right, they're both healthy, it's the right time of the month, and then when they come together, there will be pregnancy. But if these conditions are not there, then nothing happens. So if guru is bona fide, disciple is also bona fide. Book is bona fide. Connection to Krishna by parampara is there. Then Krishna there's this English word dine. It doesn't mean dine in the sense of eating. It's D-E-I-G-N. It means he will agree from his lordly position. He will agree. This is the meaning of svayameva spuratyada, by his own free will. Then he appears on the tongue when we chant his holy name. It's by his sweet will. It's not that there's some mechanical, automatic, law that says, when I say Krishna, then he has to be there. Even if I'm in Maya, even if I'm completely deviating. No, there's no such law. Svayameva spuratyada, it's by his sweet will. So if we take the name without intending to surrender and serve the Lord, surrender to and serve the Lord, then He's not there. You may say these syllables, Krishna, but then that does not indicate the Supreme Personality of God. It just indicates your ignorance. Because Krishna also means black, dark. So just an indication of our darkness if we chant in that way. It's aparat, nam aparat. It's even worse. It has a worse effect. It's worse. You're better off chanting Coca-Cola or something like that. Because then the potency of that name works, you see, in a negative way. It works against the welfare of the living entity. He goes to hell. Very dangerous. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.